to the end. You push too hard, now I make it real. Come on. We're gonna run you down, and we're gonna throw you out, and we're gonna run this town tonight, and we're gonna lay it down, better not come around, and we're gonna run this town tonight, tonight, tonight. We're gonna run this town tonight. Yeah. Come on. We're gonna run you down, and we're gonna throw you out, and we're gonna run this town tonight. We're gonna run this town. And we're gonna lay it down, better not come around. And we're gonna run this town tonight. 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 We're gonna run this town tonight. Tonight.
Live tonight from the historic North Wilkesboro Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to RacespotTV's coverage of the 2020 Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series, powered by Boosted. We're so happy to have you with us on a Monday night, alongside our producer Hugo Luis and Arjuna Kankipati. My name is Evan Pasoko, and this is the North Wilkesboro Boosted.Club All-Star Challenge. It was 1 week ago at the virtual Martinsville Speedway where we hit the halfway point on the regular season, and we won't go points racing once more on this until June the 1st. So tonight, a no points all-star invitational on one of NASCAR's most storied and historic racetracks, Virginia, and the newest track to the iRacing service.
And a track that I think a lot of people are very excited about its early release, coming to the public just days after that Pro Invitational. And this really is a great opportunity, Evan, for a lot of these drivers to just, take a break from the hard racing so far. Since, March 2nd, they've only had one off week. And, here at the midway point of the regular season, this is going to be a good opportunity for these guys to go out and have some fun for us. A long way still to go, 30 race season, and, a few more fun events later that we can discuss as well, Evan.
Yeah, every off week, aside from this, going to be filled. So even though there's not always going to be points paying Cup Series, I actually do have events like this and the All-Star Race. Next week will be the debut of the Real Sim Racing iRock Series. Those are fixed super late models at Daytona International Speedway. There's also going to be a full-length 400-mile race here at North Wilkesboro in June when those 1987 NASCAR stock cars come out. So all of those to fill the calendar. But this is in the Cup cars. All these drivers in their normal rides. Let's talk a bit about tonight's format. We are going to be racing towards a 100-lap feature race, but we're still about an hour away from even seeing that. So race winners in this Cup Series from 2019 and 2020 are already locked into the big show, so they have already qualified separately. They are now watching everybody else on track now. This is the go or go home session. We have about 21 drivers fighting for 16 spots. We're going to qualify, go heat racing, the top 5 from 3 heat races, plus your LCQ winner. Going to move to the feature a little bit later on.
Yeah, and these are short heat races that we're talking about, 30 laps, so going to be a lot of motivation for drivers, who qualify further back in their heats to make their way forward. But we've also got the added factor, Evan, of this open qualifying session that we're about to witness. And, that might also mix up the running order, for the heats a little bit more.
And I think that's the biggest point there. You saw it on the overhead shot. When iRacing scanned North Wilkesboro in December, it was basically how it was the last time the Cup Series raced there in 1996. But this is the 1987 version. There is virtually no blend line in Turn 1. Normally on Mondays, we do single car qualifying sessions. They're all on their own. But you mentioned that group session. We're going to have 20 cars trying to qualify at the same time on a racetrack just over half a mile in length, where as soon as they leave pit road, they are instantly into the racing groove on the bottom lane of turns 1 and 2. So it is 110% going to cause some chaos, and that's why we decided to go with it.
Yeah, we're looking at 17, 18-second laps here. So in that 5 minutes, drivers going to have, plenty of opportunities maybe to reset back onto the pit lane and get back out there if they do get involved in some cautions. But, it's going to be interesting, Evan. I noticed here watching the Pro Invitational specifically that you can kind of use both lines here. You can definitely make that high line work. Timmy Hill, I noticed, definitely was making the high line work. So maybe some drivers here, they've, had the opportunity to practice a little bit more since the track's been released, and maybe they figured something out that their competitors have not.
And this is such a tricky track as well, as we're about a minute away from that group qualifying session, because the way that they built this track, the run up the back straightaway is literally up a hill. You're going up an incline from the run from turn 2 to 3, and then you're actually racing back down that same incline at a turn 4 down to turn 1. So that naturally going to change turns 1 and 2 compared to 3 and 4. Also, there's no curb on the bottom side of the racetrack in 1 and 2. There is in 3 and 4. You touch that, your night basically done. Both corners with very late apexes. It is such a unique racetrack, and as you mentioned, an early release to the iRacing service. Happy we got it after iRacing saw the demand.
Yeah, and you talk about that curb, very similar to Martinsville where we were last week, where if you do touch it, you're going to go around. But I'm very curious. You talk about, the differences between the two ends of the track. Turn 3, since you're going uphill into that, you can definitely send the car a little bit more. And like you talk about that late apex, maybe that benefits the high line just that little bit more. But, that's maybe something that we're going to discuss, Evan, more in the 100-lap feature. These 30-lap heat races, maybe a bit more of a bloodbath.
And there's a concern as well because they will not see any caution flags either during the course of the heats. But here we go. It is 5 minutes of open qualifying from the North Wilkesboro Speedway. On board with John Fowler, the key may be to just get out in front of the chaos and kind of run away and get out and just get a clean lap. And I don't think we're going to be seeing hot laps like some of the best times in practice were earlier in this session. I think just getting a decent lap is going to be the objective.
Yeah, and John Fowler making use of that clean track. There's only 5 cars on track right now out of your 21 cars. So this is going to be a good opportunity for him to put down a good banker lap and maybe just ride out the rest of the qualifying session. He's going to come around the start-finish line here, and let's see what that time is.
We are going to talk now. We talked about that qualifying session for the locked-in drivers, and as we watch live qualifying happen, we are on the radio with Adam Benefield, the driver of the number 83 machine, who's going to be starting on pole for this North Wilkesboro Boosted Club All-Star Challenge for the feature race. Adam, a 17.862, not too bad. You don't have to deal with the stress that our go-or-go-home drivers are dealing with right now, but just tell us how you're feeling about this race.
It's surprising, honestly, that I hit that lap. I couldn't do anything better than O's and practice leading up to it, and then somehow bust out at 86. So we'll take it. This is gonna be fun. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be difficult. This track is so hard to figure out, but I know there's going to be a lot of fast guys, and it should be fun.
We talked about some of the unique parts of this track, the downhill into 1, the uphill into 3, kind of a late apex in 4. You almost kind of undercut as soon as that curve dies away. But, of course, getting a track like this onto the iRacing service, I know it's been so popular over the last few weeks. Aside from the technical aspect, what's it like racing in North Wilkesboro?
It's actually pretty fun. This track, even though it has progressive banking, but it's not like all the other tracks on the service that has progressive banking. the top line isn't dominant. So you'll be able to see a lot of guys running side by side, and it'll be fun. And it's also going to bring in some strategy into play about having to save your tires and make sure you're lasting. You can run on a long run. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be your short track racing. It's you're going to have to get up on the wheel and elbows up and see who's the baddest.
One more thing that we didn't mention yet on the broadcast here is that you guys also going to be working with just a 25% fuel cell for that feature. The rules for that one obviously very different. You don't have to worry about these heats where they're going to be those short 20-lap sprints, no yellows. Yellows will be in effect for that feature. We will eliminate drivers outside the top 20 at 1/3 distance, outside the top 10 at 2/3. There's that limited fuel cell. What is going to be the key in that one to surviving what could be kind of a rough and tough race?
My plan is to stay out front. That's my plan. Is just stay out front and just kind of set a pace. I think that the guys that are locked in, they're kind of everybody will be on the same page and know that it's really going hard and taking yourself out of the race ain't gonna be worth it. So I think we'll probably get single file and probably ride it out. And but when it starts getting down to the end after that second caution and you get your final, 10 drivers, I think that's when you're going to start seeing a little bit more take, and it's going to get exciting.
Well, we're looking forward to that feature a little bit later on, but you've got about an hour to relax. So we'll let you jet out of here. Thanks for chatting and good luck.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Real quick, I want to say hey to my buddy Philip Carden. He had an accident a few weeks ago on a motorcycle, and I know that he's in the hospital right now, and I know he's tuning in and watching. And say hey to all my Roll Speed Dynamics, all my family with them, and Lassiter Farms. I know they're tuning in and watching, so I really appreciate it, and I'm sure they'll be telling me how I need to run this race here shortly.
Where you're going to have a lot of TV time up in front to impress them. That's your pole sitter for later on this evening in our feature race, qualified in on pole for that locked-in driver session. That is Adam Benefield, and we have watched this session play itself through, and some impressive lap times at the top of the board as the qualifying clock strikes 0. The best of them all will be Rhett Nichols in this one. So the feature race is going to be modified due to the number of cars. We're going to go racing to begin with just 2 heat races. Let's take a look at your starting grid. Rhett Nichols is going to bring us to the green flag in this one, and he will be joined by Kyle Kamer. Joseph Tice starts third. It'll be the inside row 2 with Brian Chambliss in fourth, and Nicholas Caldwell rounds out your top 5.
Then Steve Durham starts in 6th. Then John Fowler, the driver who we saw at the start of the qualifying session, is going to be in 7th. Michael Moser will be in 8th position. Then you got Michael Kaczynski, Jacob Bradford, and Tom Moreno will take the last spot in this field.
So that's a look at the bottom. Mentioned that we were going to go with 3 heat races. iRacing has automatically amended the format. So instead of going for 3 heat races, we're going to do 2 heat races, and we will take 6 out of the LCQ instead of just 1. So that is the modified format, is the top 5 from each heat race, and your top 6 for the LCQ. The objective still the same amount of cars get in, just a different path there.
Yeah, but something to consider is that now you've gone from, potentially 7 cars in each heat to, 11 in this one. So, for those 5 drivers who do make it through, they're going to be very happy, but 6 drivers going to be in that LCQ looking to, get the best starting position that they can.
And it'll be 2 trips around the virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway before we get set to get this one underway. But you can see the lights off on top of the iRacing.com official pace truck, and a little bit of late drama in this as well means that also the modified format, a little bit of bigger grids as well for these heats. 11 cars in Heat Race 1. It'll be 10 in Heat Race 2. Of course, nobody wants to get sent back to the last chance to qualifier. But the lights are off on top of the iRacing pace car, and as we are every night, happy that you're with us at RacespotTV. Tonight, a special one, though, from North Wilkesboro. Off and in as we get set for Heat Race number 1. 20 laps, no cautions, and the top 5 cars automatically into the feature 100. Green flag flies. We're off and away. It's Heat Race 1 from Wilkesboro.
And out of turn 2, you can see Rhett Nichols, he's managed to get the lead from Kyle Kamer, but Kyle's still hanging on the outside. But you can see a little further back, the 25 and the 1, that's Joseph Theis, Brian Chambliss. They're still too wide. They're fighting hard right now. And remember, every position you can get here is very important, especially when you consider that after just 10 minutes of racing in the feature, the bottom 10 cars are going to get eliminated. So important to get the best spot you can in this race.
Yeah, this is effectively a qualifying session for that feature. So first in this, going to have a whole lot prettier of a starting spot for the feature than P5 will. Although at the end of the day, they both accomplished the goal, and that is getting all the way through. But I'm surprised how clean these drivers were able to keep things in that open qualifying session. A couple of drivers had some lap times messed up, but 21 cars, open queue at a half-a-mile racetrack. Not that bad, as you're watching a battle for third position, or thereabouts. Chambliss has got it. That's the one of Joseph Tyson, 4th. Nicholas Caldwell in P5. He is the transfer position. Behind him, John Fowler made an early race pass on Steve Durham to get the P6, and he is hoping to catch that 17 car. You're on board with the first driver on the outside.
Yeah, and most of these drivers surprisingly fairly single file. You have to go all the way back to 9th and 10th to where Jacob Bradford and Michael Moser are duking it out a little bit more, and you can see that at the back of your shot. But you know, you have to remember 30 laps here and no cautions. It looks like most of these drivers deciding that right now is the perfect time to save their equipment a little bit and just, you know, hang out and wait, you know, maybe till 10 laps to go, and that's when they're going to start making their move.
Oh, and a spin. Fowler on board with him. He got loose at a turn number 4, and that car went around. He locked it up. Was actually able to keep it out of the inside wall, but that basically ends his hopes of not only qualifying out of this, but that's going to put him to the nearly back of the running order here as he falls down to 11th, and that would give him the worst seat in the house for the LCQ. Here we go. The battle for third. Theis to the inside on Chambliss. It's one thing to get the inside positioning, but it is going to be hard to get back into the throttle to complete that pass now as Chambliss holds on the outside. Nick Caldwell from 5th joins the party. We're on lap number 9 of 20 in heat race number 1.
Yeah, and Joseph was able to clear him there, just getting a very good drive off the corner, and that 25 car is choosing to maybe run slightly higher compared to some of his competitors right now, not really helping him in this sprint race. Something maybe will help him a little bit more in terms of his tire wear later on in the evening, but he's got to get into that feature race first. Right now he is in 4th, and that would put him into that race.
So he's doing the job that he needs to do, and it's funny because Chambliss, Caldwell actually talking with each other on the radio right now, saying, listen, man, I'm not going to go after you because that'll just slow us both down. The driver that they are worried about is Steve Durham. I mentioned he got passed up by John Fowler off at the top. There he is, and you can see it is a little bit of a gap back to Steve, who has the Doppler Durham on the radar colors on board his Ford Mustang, one of our happy partners here, the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, sponsoring the Hard Charger Award each and every single week for the Aegis powered entry. Is about 1.2 seconds off of Caldwell for P5, and I'm thinking, unless we see a mistake, that I don't think that gap is surmountable, but we saw from Fowler just how easy it is to screw it up. And if you're at the top 5, you need to be clean for the next 7.5 laps.
Yeah, so we are 13 laps into a 20-lap heat race, not 30 laps like I think I said a few times, but already halfway into this race, and you have seen the gap slowly build up. And right now, Evan, I'm kind of thinking that unless, like you say, a mistake happens, the only person that might jump someone here is Joseph Theis, who might get past Kyle Kamer. For the rest of the field, they're all separated quite a bit. But there you can see Joseph Theis. He's just 2/10 from that rear bumper of Kyle Kamer. He's the one person who I think might have the opportunity to move up in this field.
And of course, they all want to win the heat race. Look at all of these drivers, non-race winners. for the last 2 seasons, but full-time competitors in 2020. We had it eligible 10 cars who have won a race this year, and some who competed last year as well, to get that automatic ticket into the feature. 8 of them participating in this, and again, their qualifying times already set. So the winner of heat race number 1 would be getting number 9 spot on the grid for the main event. Winner of heat race 2 would get 10th, and it'll kind of piggyback there on the back through 20th. The LCQ top 6 would be 21st through P26. But in all honesty, for the lack of yellows, again, yellows not turned on for this, so we could have wadded up the whole field. We wouldn't have even had one. Pretty impressed with how clean this race has been, as Tice looking to the inside for second at 3 laps to go.
Yeah, field's been very clean in this one. Only blemish has been that small self-spin by John Fowler, but Joseph Theis was really doing well there, and I think just got too much of a good run there, had to go to the inside, and that got him all checked up here. But Joseph Theis definitely showing he's got a lot of pace here. They're going to come to the white flag next time around.
And with Caber now clearing once more, you can see that if this was maybe a 30 or 40 lap heat, then Kyle Caber would have his hands full, because Tice, Chambliss, and even Caldwell, that entire top 5, not that far off of his bumper. But in the case of heat race number 1, started up front and led all the way. The 55 Chevy of Rhett Nichols sideways the final corner, wins heat race number 1 and punches his ticket to the feature. He'll be joined by Kyle Kamer, Joseph Theis, Brian Chambliss, and Nicholas Caldwell, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that are going to the main.
Yeah, not much turnaround time there, but something to point out, we had 6 drivers, the top 6, none of them moved any positions there, so all finishing where they started. That might be something to watch in the second heat race.
And that second heat race, as you can see, the drivers loading into the race session on the front straightaway. Let's take a look at your RacespotTV starting grid. So these are all the even-numbered cars from qualifying. So the second best in the queue is Austin Wagner. He'll get pole for heat race number 2, and he'll be joined on the front row by the number 13 Ford of Gary Sexton. Blake O'Connell and David Washington get a double up in row 2. They'll start in 3rd and 4th spot with Jared Bogard, P5.
Yeah, and then Sean Kalis, he'll be in 6th. And you got Jason Lester, Andrew Pellegrini, who unfortunately has had some internet issues, so I don't think he's going to be taking the grid here. And you got Steve Soa and Trevin Valdemara, so we're going to have a 9-car heat race here.
Yeah, Pellegrini drops out, so his hope is that he can actually get back and into the race session. If that, of course, could compete in the LCQ. Is definitely, though, going to miss this scheduled heat race, which stands to benefit Valderrama, who jumps up from the outside of row 5 to the outside of row 4, and kind of de facto is rolling off in that number 8 position because of the issues with Pellegrini. So I mean, the way that this race is going to shake out is, I think that track position is going to be so important. We didn't see a lot of sparks fly in the first heat race. Let's see if heat race 2 can stay quite as green as well.
Yeah, and we did see a lot of respectful racing. Let's see how it plays out this time around. And I'm curious to see exactly what happens here. Like I said, 6 cars, they all stayed exactly where they started. And, unless some of these drivers decide to be a little bit more aggressive, we may see the same thing here, where all these drivers are content to just ride their way into the feature race.
So the pace truck is off and in, and we are set to go. Green flag in the air for heat race 2. In fact, a better start on the outside for Sexton, but it is Austin Wagner, your race leader, into turns 1 and 2. So side by side for the top position. Let's see how this one shakes out. Sexton may be pinned up top, though, because here comes David Washington at the bottom of the racetrack. That is the number 98 machine. Ready to get on the inside for second, and contact. He'll turn Sexton, the 13, into the outside wall from P2.
And we saw Gary Sexton have to come back time and time again last week at Martinsville with heavy damage. It's going to be the same situation this time around. He's going to have to fight his way through the last chance qualifier. But fortunately for David Washington, he managed to hold onto his car, so he's still going to be in 3rd. But the big winner, that 14 car, he's now got a 1-second advantage out front.
And we got some more contact back to the back as well as some drivers are getting together. The 02 of Valderrama just got squeezed up and into the fence by the 43 of Sean Kalis. So definitely Heat Race 2, a little bit more exciting than Heat Race 1. A lot of driver banter on the radio right now amongst these two as there are some unhappy campers, but through a wild 4 laps, Austin Wagner still leads from pole. But how about Jared Mogard? The 00 started 5th, and he snaked his way through all of that chaos to get the 2nd.
Yeah, he managed to, just find the way through. In the immortal words of Casey Cowan, he Moses his way through that one. But if I'm Gary Sexton, I would be very disappointed with what just happened to me there. Running in 2nd, able to hold that outside line, it looked like. David Washington just a little bit too optimistic, sending it into the corner and turning him. So, for Gary, he's going to have to put this in the back of his mind and really refocus and regroup and just focus on that last chance qualifier.
And the anger radio chatter, by the way, continuing as the 02 machine of Valderrama was damaged and brought it down to the pit lane. Not happy with Kalis, who we mentioned a little bit earlier, and gotten into him. You talked about Gary Sexton getting moved out of the way by David Washington. The 13 had some choice words for the 98 machine also, as this great battle, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, continues on. Here's Washington looking to the bottom, but Mogard not going to give him an inch. He comes down and shuts that door with 12 laps to go. How aggressively is Mogard willing to block here?
Yeah, but we're definitely seeing this time around, Evan, they are much more fighty. And for David Washington, who continues to confuse us in the booth here with the paint that says 89, actually running under the 98, he's looking very quick behind Jared Mogard right now. And here he goes looking to the inside, but I don't think he's going to want to get into a 2nd incident in this heat race.
And I think he's kind of noted, that incident that happened earlier with Sexton, and I think admittedly he is being super patient right now with the driver of that 00 machine. Mogard has come with a little bit of a late chop block a few times, and I think he certainly could have moved him, but now he finds an opening to the inside at turn number 2. Goes to show you that if you wait, you can find an opening. David Washington to 2nd. Here comes O'Connell, trying to get it out to the inside of Mogard, just wasn't able to do it. And at turn number 4, and Mogard finds a spot in line in P3, but I don't think O'Connell's going to give up here. Let's see if these two would continue on. It'll be 8 laps to go the next time by. Sean Kalis is still your bubble driver, P5, as there's the opening. He'll go to the inside as Mogard absolutely threw away turn 4.
Yeah, we saw Mogard really diving it deep, both into 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4, and that's going to cost him that 3rd position right now. And if he keeps going like this, Evan, you have to think that, when you have a 100-lap feature race, even with a 20% fuel cell, you're not going to be able to take tires every single time, so you need to be able to preserve them. And we see here he continues to struggle in the background right now, and he's going to fall into the clutches of Sean Kalis.
So Kalis now going to go on the inside. Of course, Mogard made a lot of passes early, but curious if some of the back-end damage and maybe some other factors slowed him down late in this one. The driver that they are worried about would be Jason Lester. And, well, if you've been tuning in with us on Mondays and don't recognize that name, he is making his 2020 series debut. The roster was opened up to cars 50 and 51 this week on the registration list. And Jason Lester, a prior RSR competitor, was opened up, so he's making his debut as that is Mogard way off and into the outside wall. I would be concerned now as Soa's looking to the inside of Lester behind that if Mogard keeps blowing quarters like this, he may not be safe. Those 2 cars behind, not that far away, although now they're battling with each other.
Yeah, they're battling, but only 4 laps to go here, and Jared really falling off here. He's going to have to look for both the 92 and the 75. He's right on the bubble right now. This is his opportunity to secure that spot, not have to go into the last chance qualifier. But here comes the 75 car, Steve Soa. I think he's going to dive to the inside.
Oh, he got awfully tight there on the inside of Lester. Mogard continuing to really struggle. And I think Soa may have even had an opportunity to get to his inside if he hadn't got loose at a turn 4 the last time through. This time 2 to go, and Lester's into the fence. Lester hits the wall, comes down, takes out Soa, and now the 75 car to wreck it. He'll head to the LCQ as Lester has got a lap and a half. Mogard blows the corner. The double O's into the outside wall, and Jason Lester at the white flag takes over. Transfer spot in P5. What a final lap and a half as Austin Wagner pulled the checker, wins a Rumpus Heat Race 2.
A lot more action than that one, Evan, as compared to the first one. But, you know, I'm a little bit concerned when we watch Jared Mogard there burning up his tires. I might even think he may have, you know, blown a tire out. You can do that in iRacing. And, you know, that was very weird to see.
I mean, he wasn't just slow. I mean, he really lost a ton of pace. And what you think of Gary Sexton? He was up at a qualifying spot, got racked out. Steve Soa funnied with Lester for what was going to be the battle for P5. He gets wrecked out. There's going to be a lot of angry drivers in a consolation race now that we move to next. So again, those top 5 locked in. Mogard and friends headed to the LCQ. And we did say off at the top that it was only your LCQ winner. However, because iRacing skipped heat race number 3 due to the amount of competitors in the field, we are going to take the equivalency of if there was a heat race 3. So the top 6 drivers are going to move on. Let's take a look at the starting grid. So Durham and Mogard 1-2. They'll bring us to the green flag, accompanied by Michael Kuczynski and Gary Sexton in 3rd and 4th. Jacob Bradford therefore on the inside of row 3. He rounds out your top 5.
Then you've got Steve Soa, Michael Moser, and then Trevin Valderrama. And then 9 through 11, Tom Morano, Andrew Pellegrini, and John Fowler. So, you know, 11 cars starting and 6 cars going to make it through. You know, I think, you know, given that a lot of these drivers were involved in incidents, especially in that second heat race, Evan, I think this one might continue to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, there was a lot of fireworks as well. There was a lot of angry drivers as well, talking to some of the cars that actually made it to the feature that said, hey, you better hope I don't see you in that main event. So it's a short track Monday night, or a Monday afternoon, I guess you will, here at North Wilkesboro. And it is now time for the final transfer race. The top 6 spots, the bottom 5, going to be sent home in this one. And that means a majority of the cars actually make the main event. Nobody wants to be the cars sent home.
Yeah, and again, we kind of mentioned it at the start, but your finishing position in this race is going to determine how far, you know, forward you start in that feature race. And when you consider that after 33 laps, we're going to eliminate, you know, 10 cars, that's going to be a big thing. But Steve Durham, he's going to lead us to green here. Jared Mogard on the outside.
And again, no cautions, minor rule modification for the Consi race, the LCQ, as it goes from 20 laps to 30. As you watch the battle for second, Sexton on the outside of the pretended machine of Durham in this battle right now, as Jared Mogard, the one who actually leads lap number 1 after he made the move from the top spot in this one. He now out to the race lead using the outside road. Durham struggling now as Gary Sexton clears him at turn number 2. You keep a nose on the inside. Sexton gets tagged, and for a second time, Gary Sexton is wrecked.
And Gary Sexton with his brand new red Ford Mustang must be thinking that that livery is cursed, because once again in this All-Star race, he's been turned around and clipped. He's still going here though. But, you know, something just to consider, Evan, 30 laps for this last chance qualifier. Jared Mogard out front. He burned up his tires in just a 20-lap race. What's going to happen this time? Leading out by himself, can he preserve those tires and still hold off everybody behind him?
Well, a lot of choice words courtesy of the 13 machine of Gary Sexton. And, of course, you talk about unlucky, dumped twice in his heat and in this. In theory, he's still got a chance if other drivers wreck out, because he is currently running in the number 9 spot, and the top 6 will advance. So the drivers on the outside would be Mosier, Bradford, Sexton, and Morano. The top 6 looking good, so some drivers for the outside have worked their way in. Trevin Valderrama, you see the O2 machine there. He started at 8th spot. He's up to P5, 1 spot ahead of John Fowler, who is the bubble driver.
Yeah, and we saw John Fowler spinning it on his own, the only really major incident in that first heat race. Starting from the back this time around, he's keeping it clean. And we're about to hit 1/3 race distance in this last chance qualifier, and he's right on the bubble. He's got, I think Moser's about 3 seconds further behind, so he's got a little bit of a gap behind. He doesn't have to push too hard here, and maybe he's just going to look to ride out the rest of this race.
Jacob Bradford is damaged. He is actually going to come down to the pit lane, so the 29 machine is going to give up P9. Tom Morano also wrecked out of the race early, so Gary Sexton now up to position 8 on the racetrack. Still puts him about 6.5 seconds off of John Fowler, and his current pace would not catch him. But again, 30 laps a long way. I mean, I thought 20 laps was super short, but I mean, we saw guys like Morano in that second heat race struggle to conserve the tires. Maybe if some of the drivers, including this duo that's fighting for 5th and 6th, burn away at their equipment, that maybe things are not totally lost yet for the 13.
Yeah, and Gary's got to just think positive here. You cannot really do anything by getting yourself down at this point in the race. There's still 20 laps to go, and he's still going to have a view of, at the very least, Michael Moser in front of him. But right now, right on board of them, you can see that, given that he got turned around, Evan, he's got relatively minor damage. He only lost about 6 seconds in that incident. It could have been worse. He could have been one of the cars like Jacob Bradford, Tom Morano, who had to come down the pit lane. But here we watch this 3-way battle. I think this is for 4th.
This battle's 2nd, 3rd, and 4th on track. All these drivers started in transfer positions. It's funny because Steve Durham's in this battle for 2nd. His radio conversation still ongoing with the Gary Sexton, although all I'll say is I cannot repeat it verbatim on the broadcast. So Durham multitasking, arguing on the radio, kind of pleading his case to the 13. Gary Sexton obviously not happy, while also trying to hold off Michael Kaczynski and Steve Soa. Soa, I know, after, of course, maybe he feels like that he should have made it in from Heat Race 2, but again, we saw that contact with Lester. He feels like he passed for P5 behind them. Fowler to the side of Valderrama in turns 3 and 4.
And they're still fighting side by side. Trevin trying to hold the outside, but he does concede the position here, but he looks to get an over-under. Nothing happening there, but just to note, John Fowler, that's one more position. He's going to start further forward in that feature race. And, that's always helpful, especially when you consider that you're going to have cautions as well. So 33 laps to make up 10 spaces. Maybe you can play some pit strategy. There's a lot of factors that these drivers, they're going to be using this as a test race almost to figure out exactly how the tires work. And I just watched Jared Mogard. He's been setting the pace since the start of this race. He's not really fallen off that hard this time around. He's still holding that gap to Steve Durham about 2.5 seconds, and that's got to be a much more positive thing for him to really have to take out of this race, especially given how much he fell off in that last one.
Yeah, this was the point in that heat race in which he really started to struggle. You see the group 2nd, 3rd, and 4th still nice and close together as the battle for the transfer spot wages on. And I thought that maybe this was going to be a fun storyline because Michael Moser is 7th. He's the first driver on the outside looking in. It is Valderrama in 6th. Again, only one of those cars can advance, with the top 6 being the cut line. Moser was faster for a little bit. Valderrama has been faster since then, so I'm not sure if that'll actually ever translate into a battle. We'll keep an eye on the timesheets, and you can see the intervals left-hand side of your screen as Steve Soa is making a real play here for 3rd.
Yeah, but right now it does seem like most of the drivers, once again, rather content to kind of just sit here and wait. They all know that they're in a position here to make it through to that feature race. And, Evan, you pointed out that some of these drivers, already making plans if they get to that feature race to maybe take some, revenge and dole out some retribution for incidents. But when you have the penalty system being completely, thrown out the window for this race, you don't want to make any more enemies this early, before you even get to the main event. So, Steve Soa right now definitely just driving very carefully. Does look as though he's a little bit faster than Michael Kaczynski, but not really trying anything too aggressive at this stage.
And maybe that's the key as well, because there are no penalty points in this event specifically. you may be more concerned that, hey, if I rough somebody up now, they can kind of take me out in the feature, and there would relatively be lesser consequences. I won't say there are none, because if there is some blatant unsportsmanlike conduct in the feature, that I'm sure it'll be looked at post-race, but there are no penalty points or any of those kind of weekly things that we monitor in the balance here tonight. But again, this could also not only mean one spot on the grid, but it could also be the difference for Soa if he's doing the math in his head between starting inside row, outside row, and who knows, maybe that matters to you. Jared Bogart started second in this race, but he's led every lap, so maybe the top side, a better place to restart.
Well, definitely compared to Martinsville last time out. We saw last time there, the outside line was absolutely not where you wanted to be on restarts. But, we have seen, out of the 3 starts we've seen so far, a little bit more balance in terms of which lane able to get a good jump, on that green flag. But right now, again, Steve Soa, he's right on the back of Michael Kaczynski. He's looking to the inside this time around as they work their way down into turn 1.
As in the 30 car has opened up the door. Next time by, going to be 4 laps to go. Soa on the bottom of Durham in a battle for position, and it is his. And at turn number 4 for third, Soa on through, so he moves to a race high P3. Kaczynski down to 4th. Of course, not a battle that he wanted to lose, but again, not the end of the world. Still in a spot to transfer to the feature. Valderrama also about 2 seconds ahead of Mosier for 6th and 7th. He's fine.
And we did see there just how respectfully they were making that pass happen. Steve Soa waiting for that mistake from that 30 car. And Michael gave him plenty of space there. But right now, Steve, he's already closing up on, the second Steve in front of him, Steve Durham. We might have a little bit more action coming to 2 to go.
2 laps to go. Does Soa have it in him to go all the way up to P2 in the LCQ? This could put him in basically for 20th on the for that 100-lap feature race. Is into late afternoon conditions here at North Wilkesboro. As always, dynamic weather and realistic sky as well in effect. So track temps changing. Only 88 degrees though. Track sign temperatures about than the average that we have been seeing. But out in front of the, it'll be Jared Bogart, who was in a transfer spot for all of his heat race. He wins the DQ and is going to the main event across the start-finish line. Durham maintains 2nd, Soa 3rd, Kaczynski 4th, Fowler 5th, and Valderrama with the final golden ticket. He is headed to today's feature race. Everybody else on down to Mosier, Sexton, Bradford, Morano, and Pellegrini, who did not get back into the grid in time to make an attempt. He does not make it. Those drivers are going home.
And great performance there from Jared Bogart. Really struggled in his heat race, but a dominant win there to really just show himself anything that he's got the confidence and the ability to really drive that car much faster than we saw at the end of that second heat race. But for someone like Gary Sexton taken out, running second, that's going to be a lot of disappointment. This is meant to be a fun race, but it's never fun being taken out like that twice.
Yeah, a lot of drivers a little bit heated after this one, and I think that goes to show you it doesn't matter if we're racing in a fun all-star event or if it is, with the championship on the line. As you go to a short track, it is going to bring out those emotions, and admittedly, I think that is why we love short track racing so much. But that's a look at your LCQ, and we are now set to get the field racked and stacked for the feature race. So we'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. It might be a few moments, and when we come back to North Wilkesboro, we are going to get set for the feature. You're watching RacespotTV's coverage of the RealSimRacing Full Throttle Cup Series powered by Boosted. It is the feature race for the All-Star Challenge next from North Wilkesboro.
We are back at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, where the field is rolling out for the start of today's 400-lap race on this 0.625-mile racetrack. And just as the field comes all around turn number 4, the sunshine peeks through, helping warm things here. Bill Elliott leads him down. Benny Parsons on the outside. The green flag flies, and the first Union 400 Winston Cup race from North Wilkesboro is underway. Everybody nicely through turns number 1 and 2 as Bill Elliott has the lead, and Dale Earnhardt has jumped into second position, followed by Benny Parsons and Bobby Allen. Dale Earnhardt is on his last lap. This will be his 24th career win. Dale Earnhardt wins the first Union 400 at North Wilkesboro.
Benedetto is there. Who will it be? When will they make the move? Bailey Curry looks low. He looks high. He looks high again. Off turn 4. Cambry down to the apron. Will Rogers is there. They spread 3 wide. They spread to the grass. Here they come to the tri-oval. 4, 5 wide. Who's going to win it at the line? It's Chase Cambry. Cambry wins at Daytona by 1/100th of a second.
He's no slowpoke. He's in 15th behind them, and behind them side by side for Kenny Rodriguez. Whoa, Stephen Nash went past him. Okay, I'm gonna need a replay of that one. Stephen Nash round the outside of Kenny Rodriguez into the last sector of this track because that was insane.
And back live for the virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway as we are set to go feature race racing for the North Wilkesboro Boosted.Club All-Star Challenge. Happy that you're with us for RacespotTV's continuing coverage of the RealSimRacing Full Throttle Cup Series powered by Boosted. Like every week, the place where gamers and creators go to monetize digitally. The team will build you a e-commerce store and help get sponsorships for those looking to build their brand online. Go to boosted.club for more information. So heat races, LCQ now come and gone, and we are getting set to go racing for the feature. Evan Pasoko, our junior concubati, upstairs with you as we get set for the main event.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, Evan, but I'm dressed up here like I was back in 1987. Very excited about, broadcasting from this historic track. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. We saw, two different races almost in those heat races. Heat 1 very clean, Heat 2 not so clean. But when you have 100 laps here and you have those competition cautions that are going to eliminate some of these cars from even being able to compete at the end, I think we are going to see a lot more, action early in the race.
So only 24 drivers making it to this feature. Again, the starting order for this determined based on the race winning qualifying session. So race winners from this season and last qualified even before we went on air. We talked about the top of the bowl at the very beginning of the night in Adam Benefield, but it was also Andrew Freitas, Daniel Eberhardt, Michael Lariah, Daniel Scott, Kyle Trudell, Rhett McBride, and Eric Stanford. So they were your 8 drivers locked in. They will start 1 through 8 in the order in which they qualified. 9th position on back, going to be based, of course, on the heats and the LCQs. Now, let's talk about this feature. You notice it is now late afternoon conditions at North Wilkesboro, so we'll be racing as the sun sets for this 100-lap feature race. Caution flags are on for this, and there are some eliminations to take place. At 1/3 distance, lap 33, drivers 21st on back will be eliminated from the race. At 2/3 distance, lap number 67 in this race, cars 11th through 20th will be eliminated from the race. So you have to get up on the wheel and get some track position early if you plan on sticking around.
Yeah, and if you're one of those cars who finished at the rear end of that last chance qualifier, you're one of those drivers in, the prime position to be cut. We're only talking about, maybe 10 minutes of green flag racing. So, that's going to be very interesting to see. Like you say, some of these drivers really going to have to wheel their way in towards that top 15, top 10, as we work towards the halfway point of the race.
And just looking down, so this is a 15-minute warm-up session, maximum of 6 minutes left on the board for them to just kind of warm things up and get things underway here. There was a couple as well of drivers who we talked about some of the tempers flaring. At the end of the day, this is a non-points event. The idea is for drivers to show up and have some fun at the newest and in fact, the most historic track as far as scan date-wise on the iRacing service, but it does not take the competitive edge out of the driver's DNA, nor the fact that they all want to win, and that has led to some sparks flying. And as that sun starts to dip behind the North Carolina mountains, there are no lights here, so short race. We'll finish it before we are in total darkness as the sun sets, but that'll as well kind of play havoc on track temps and many different things as this race goes off and into the evening. But I think with a bit of darker conditions towards the end, we may literally be seeing those sparks flying.
Yeah, and there's almost some incentive here for the drivers to keep it clean, earlier in the race, because, the longer it goes, the more caution flags that fly, the more darkness that they're going to have to contend with at the end of this race. And, I heard one of the drivers joking on voice that, maybe they could turn the driving line on, because at the very least, that might radiate the road ahead just that little bit, give them a little bit of visibility. But, I think we are going to see most of these drivers getting a bit more aggressive. Not your top 8, obviously. They'll all be locked in from, the past race wins and things like that. But, some of the drivers from that last chance qualifier.
And something else to keep in mind is on every race on a Monday, there are no fast repairs. That's something that, of course, we have kind of made extra point to talk about because when you saw a lot of the NASCAR Pro Invitational iRacing Series events, they were given to quick repairs. Normally on Mondays, none of those are available. Here tonight, however, one fast repair available to every driver in the field. Of course, if you're back in the pack where you're utilizing a fast repair, you're probably going to be at risk of being eliminated anyways, but should you need it, it's there.
Yeah, and we did see, Gary Sexton, we just talked about him, 2 incidents in his 2 races. Most of the drivers aren't going to want to use that fast repair, but when you have that, restricted fuel tank, the 20%, I have a feeling we are going to see some drivers with damage able to, contend later in the race if they're just able to stay on the lead lap, potentially continue to come down, get damage repaired, even after they use that fast repair.
It looks like as well that all the drivers now, the 24 car grid has loaded in to this new session. You can see the fun pit lane here. There's actually no interior pit lane wall, just a little bit of sand and gravel, and then the pit boxes backed right up to the end of the trailers. On the infield, victory lane, just about a 3 or 2 step grandstand, and because of that, it just gives you that old school feel. You can't actually get into it, though. I know a couple of drivers have tried as well. But of course, the way that this track has played out is it was initially supposed to be on iRacing start of June. Such great reception for the past Sunday's Pro Invitational Series race. The fact that we got it early, so it will have a couple of finishing touches added next month. But I'll tell you what, even that side right there, the old manual scoreboard updates, it's going to be a fun event.
Yeah, and if you haven't already had the chance to watch that great clip that the Dale Jr. download did on the way that they scanned this track, I would highly recommend you go and watch that. Very cool to see, just how many people chipped in to getting the track surface cleaned and scanned. But here we go. Let's take a look at the grid for this feature race.
And again, the qualifying order set earlier this evening, so to be your locked-in drivers first. So Adam Benefield, who qualified on a pole in the locked-in drivers session, brings us to the green flag, second best in the queue. Andrew Friedage behind Adam Benefield in second. Daniel Everhart qualifies third. Michael Lariah qualifies in fourth, with Daniel Scott fifth. Kyle Trudell 6th, Rhett McBride 7th, and Eric Stanford in 8th spot. Those drivers, first time seeing them on track tonight. Then the rest, based on your heat races, Rhett Nichols will start 9th, and Austin Wagner, heat race 2 winner, in 10th.
Yeah, then we got Kyle Kamer and David Washington. They're going to start 11th and 12th respectively. Then you got Joseph Theis, Blake O'Connell, Brian Chambliss, Sean Kalist. Then we start moving towards some of the drivers who were promoted through the last chance qualifier. Nicholas Caldwell, Jason Lester, Jared Mogard, and Steve Durham. He'll round out the top 20.
And at the very back, the drivers in the danger zone. Steve Soa, 21st. Michael Kaczynski, 22nd. John Fowler, 23rd. Trevor Valderrama, 24th. At lap number 33, those drivers will be eliminated from competition at that comp yellow at 1/3 distance. So there's a lot on the line tonight at the All-Star race, but none of which includes championship points. We're racing under the twilight hours here for North Wilkesboro as the sun will set behind the grandstands. It is a 100-lap feature, very different from the heats of the LCQ's 24 cars as well, the most we've seen on track at once. What do you think we're going to see in this main event?
Yeah, well, I'm just curious to see, Evan, how this fuel window plays out. You said 20%, but I'm not exactly sure how that plays out in terms of the lap count. But, obviously expecting quite a few trips down the pit lane. And I'm curious to see which drivers decide that tires are worth it versus which drivers decide that they don't need that fresh rubber.
Limited fuel cell of just 25% means that there's going to be frequent trips to the pit lane, definitely, at the comp yellows, if not more often. The pace truck going to be opted in, and the field in the hands of Adam Benefield as we say, let's go racing from North Wilkesboro. We're underway for the Boosted.Club All-Star Challenge.
And straight away, Andrew Farinage down into that inside lane, but a little further back, you got Michael Lariah fighting Daniel Eberhard. Daniel's on that inside line. We've also got the 44 car, Michael Lariah. He's just about holding on right now, and they're too wide basically all the way through the pack now, Evan.
And a caution flag at lap number 2. It is an incident in turn number 1. And it looks like the 75 of Steve Soa involved in this incident. A loud groan over the radio, and a second look at the replay I think will show that it was just the 75 car getting loose, at least in this particular group. But further up the hill, check this out. There's Wagner on the bottom of the racetrack. The inside of the 19. Stanford got tagged. He got Kamer. He went around. Mogart involved. A lot of chaos.
Yeah, and also a further incident. Sean Kalish just in front of Steve Soa. He lost it on his own as well. So almost, I think, 3 or 4 incidents all happening at the same time there. But a very quick yellow, Evan, and I don't expect many of the cars out front to come down the pit lane.
As the pit lane opens up early in this one, there was also some drivers that, in fact, that actually got into each other on the pace laps. So those cars actually already had some damage. So it'll be interesting to see if Stanford and Kaczynski and the drivers down to the pit lane, if they opt to take their damage repairs early on in this race, or maybe save that fast repair. Because the concern is, of course, I think oftentimes you would want to save the quick repair, but with those eliminations for the back runners, I don't know if you could afford to kind of ride around with some damage and save it. I think you need to think in the moment, and that is getting outside of, you know, those bottom 4 cars and getting to a top 20 spot.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is one where the risk of maybe trying to save the fast repair and just trying to, you know, bank on a few cautions and come down to get the repairs done, you know, over a few different laps. I don't think that's something you can really do, you know, this time around. And you know, we see quite a few drivers in the pit lane right now. It's only Steve Soa and Michael Kaczynski right now. So actually quite a few cars, you know, that were involved in that incident, Evan. They haven't come down for too much service. But just something I thought very interesting was, you know, we talked about which line would be the more strong line on the restarts. And on that initial start, both Andrew Farinage and I believe Daniel Eberhardt jumped up a spot. They both started on the outside and were able to work their way down onto the inside and past cars. So, you know, already we're seeing that, you know, different lines here have some different effects depending on the driver and how they want to run the race.
And Andrew Farinage took over the race lead off for the restart because Adam Benefield actually violated the start procedures, went before the green flag, had to yield that position, did not get penalized. Farinage went to the race lead. He opts to go to the outside line for this restart. So double back up with 6 laps down from North Wilkesboro. We're back underway. The fight going to be for second.
Yeah, great start there for Andrew, but Daniel Eberhardt right to the outside, and he's already got that position from Adam Benefield. So, Adam, your pole position when it's starting to fall back, and now you see right behind Michael Arias sending it down in towards turn 3, and Kyle Trudell on his outside. And there's a lot of action. All these drivers trying to make up positions early in the race right now.
Yeah, I saw a couple of wiggles from back of the pack as you are on the board there with Daniel Scott. Of course, we talk about race winners advancing their way into this race automatically as there's a spin on the back straightaway and a caution flag. A handful of drivers involved in this one. Turn 3 and 4 looks like a drive-in more than it does a racetrack, and we'll get a second look at what caused all of it. It started way up the hill with the Kyle Kamer and company. It was actually the 67 of O'Connell and the 8 machine of Kamer who got into each other at a turn number 3. You see, there it is. They get together, they spin, block the track. Everybody else gets some more pieces of the damage.
Yeah, and there we can see Jared Mogard, and that's the 92 of Jason Lester. They were the 2 cars that were caught out by Kyle Kamer coming back up the track. But that's what we're going to see, I think, quite a lot here, Evan. They're just fighting so hard so early. They know that, you know, on lap 33, we're going to see 4 drivers eliminated from the race, and there's only going to be 33 laps until the next 10 are eliminated. So all of these drivers just trying to fight hard for that track position.
They are, and you can see as they kind of string things out as well, that obviously they have that sense of urgency where they know they have to get up and through the field. Of course, funny that you can do, you know, the heat races and the LCQs with about a dozen cars at relatively incident-free, but at least in this one, it's the number of cars that is struggling. I also just wanted to cycle back to the point that I was talking about before, the yellow of Daniel Scott. If you were with us and you want to talk about debuts on the iRacing service, we saw our first night race for the Martinsville Speedway last Monday, and that was career win number 1 for Daniel Scott. So that's how he locked himself into this race, and is running P6 right now. That was a fun story, and we had an opportunity to chat with him after that race. Certainly a win that meant a lot to him.
Yeah, and we heard just how excited he was about that win. And it's not just about locking yourself into this race. Of course, you have to remember also locking himself into that playoffs. And, you know, that's a big thing here. He's locked himself in with half the season still to go. And, you know, that's going to really just give him a little bit of confidence, take a weight off his shoulders, knowing that he can go out there and just focus on building up points for that playoff run. Doesn't have to worry so much about if he's even going to make it into the big show.
You can see a little bit of sun being cast onto the racetrack in turn 4. They're actually racing with that sun in their eyes as they come off of turn number 4. And I guess depending on how high your graphics settings are cranked up, that could be, of course, a bit of a concern, a bit of a challenge, but I think more so it is just you have to drive the car in really hard into the corner to get, kind of any semblance of a decent lap, but it is so easy to get loose on braking. You got to put a little bit of front brake bias into the fixed setup that all of these drivers are running, I think, to be a little bit more comfortable woeing these cars down. And because of that, I think you're going to see a lot of that kind of loose on entry on the bottom and in contact in those situations. 13 laps behind. Ferdinand restarts for the outside again. And we're backing away at lap 14.
And once again, that outside line really helping the driver starting behind the leader. So that 44 car, Michael Laraya, already able to get all the way to the nose of that 90 Daniel Eberhardt. I think he's going to clear him here down on the main straight. Indeed, he does. Michael Laraya seemingly up into turn 2, but Daniel Eberhardt with a big slide on the inside, trying to fight hard and dive the car in. Defend from, that's Daniel Scott behind him.
Yeah, a bit of beating and banging as well could have been this pack here, as this is where the action is a little bit more tightly condensed. You see Wagner, you can't really miss him. The pink number 14 Chevy on the bottom is even the single file. The car is out up the road from him, only with a half a car length. The car length total in between all of them. It's, of course, not these guys, your race winners in the series, that you're really worried about. It's some of the cars at the back of the track that were in those short sprints, maybe not taking it easy and racing this as what it is, a 100 lap contest. And the best battle really is this group behind the 5 car, McBride. Wagner trying to go high side on the 98 of David Washington. Let's make it a fight for 9th.
Yeah, and just even though it is a long race, Evan, we're talking about these eliminations quite a bit. We're already on lap 18 here, so, about 16 laps to go to that first round of eliminations. So, if you're Kyle Kamer, Michael Kuczynski, Jason Lester, they're all still on the lead lap. Blake O'Connell, unfortunately, he's lost in 24th. He's down 1 lap right now. But if you're one of those drivers, you really got to start making your moves. But if you're one of these drivers, David Washington riding around in 10th, he's been passed here, and as we have the caution come out, this is a good time to maybe save your equipment.
And it was a battle for that transfer spot that I was just watching. Kyle Kamer got sent around, running in 20th, sent by the 19 of Eric Stanford. He got into him, turned the 8 machine around, and the 92 of Jason Lester did all he could to straighten him out, but it was just a real bad corner for Kamer. Look how far ahead he is to Stanford into the turn, and he just overdrove it. Stanford, of course, the one that sends him around. So ultimately, you have to, rely on that car from behind to not do the turning. However, it looked like a bad corner for the 8.
Yeah, it did look like he really sent it in deep and then had to try and almost save the car and check it up. But, if you're Kyle Kamer, that's your second incident of this feature race. I have to wonder, did he maybe use his fast repair the last time? Because obviously, Evan, that was a fairly big contact he was involved in, coming back up the track and blocking the road. So maybe for him, this is where we talk about, now he's going to have to come down, start getting that damage repair, and maybe for him, a few more cautions. We've already had 3 in 21 laps. That's what he's going to need to try and get, past 20th and survive that first, cut of eliminations.
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to have, I think that green flag run come as early in this race as it would have at any other given race. Of course, we talk about what we saw last week in Martinsville. That was the most caution-filled race we've seen there in RSR history. A record 20 yellow flags. 103 of the 202 laps were under caution flag conditions. Of course, Martinsville averages about 16 or 17 of them anyways, so you were expecting that one to be rough. But I say that because normally cars get involved in a wreck, they don't have any quick repairs, they're damaged, they slow down or they drop out of the race, and the number of cars on track goes down. Therefore, the likelihood of incidents drops. But again, with that quick repair, some drivers going to be using that kind of second lifeline. All 24 cars that, in fact, are still in this race, only Blake O'Connell being scored a lap down. The 67, I think, kind of in a desperate spot here as he has used, I think, a quick repair because that race car looking brand new, must have used it on that first bit of contact.
Yeah, he was obviously involved in that contact with Cockham, and I think he's going to get his lap back this time around. So, going to have some type of opportunity to maybe fight back. But if you're Adam Benefield, the pole sitter, he's already dropped back to 5th so far. I think you have to start getting a little bit worried. We see how racy some of the cars are. The further back you are in the field, the more, prone you are to being caught up in one of the big ones. And, Adam, I think, was he sounded pretty confident when we talked to him, I think I'd say, Evan, and maybe not going to be too happy with how the restarts specifically have gone for him so far.
It's been dropping him back and back, and he finds himself in the 3rd spot for this one. He also did say, when he got the lap time down earlier in that earlier session, that it was a lucky lap, but he had been, consistently one of the top cars. Also, practice session in this one, he was the best. So there is speed in the 90, but we have to challenge race pace of that 88 Ford of Andrew Friedage. Pace car back down and in. We are almost quarter distance from Wilkesboro. Green flag flies at lap number 25.
And once again, it appears as though that outside line, the preferred restart line, Daniel Scott, he's now working his way up into 2nd, but Michael Lorraine not going to make it too easy for him. But as we come to the stripe once again, the 26 car able to clear. And there you see further back, Daniel Eberhardt. He's fighting hard with Kyle Trudell. Oh, and there's a bit of contact. Daniel Scott up into the wall.
And he saves it. He kind of just put it into the fence to keep that car straighted. But man, oh man, what a twist of fate for the 26. And now there is a caution flag behind. And there is a lot of cars stacked up. Lester, Kuczynski, and Soa.
Yeah, we were fortunate not to get a caution there initially, but a multi-car pileup, 4 cars involved, and here we get the replay. The 92 car, Jason Lester also involved there at the front. And here it goes. It's going to be in the next corner, actually. So there was just the incident that we saw with Daniel Scott. That was happening in front of these guys. And there's the big one.
It is a big mess, so we slow it down again. And this caution going to bring us right up to the edge of our scheduled competition caution for lap number 33. So we will see if they can restart before then, if this will not count towards that, or if this does essentially count as the stage break. That would not bode well for the drivers 21st on back. Kuczynski, Soa, Lester, and O'Connell right now on the hot seat.
Yeah, and we're going to have a short run here before that competition caution is thrown, and I'm expecting a lot more of what we've seen so far. Evan, I was kind of hoping that we'd get to this first competition caution fairly cleanly, but 4 cautions so far, quite a few cars involved in multiple pileups. We are definitely seeing just how much the race means to some of these drivers as they try to get past that first round of eliminations.
And Jason Lester as well, I just thought he may have been getting a wave around. We talked about Blake O'Connell in a position where he was stuck a lap down. Don't think he is being credited with the wave around. So he's at a spot where he's still stuck a lap down, to basically guaranteeing that he'll be one of the drivers booted once we get to lap 33. Lance of the pace truck still on as well. Race control. This will not be the comp yellow.
Yeah, and I think unfortunate there for Blake O'Connell, because he didn't take any further damage from that accident that was happening in front of him, but he did have to go all the way down into the grass to avoid it. And I think maybe the iRacing, race control system detected that as him being part of the incident and didn't wave him around as the lucky dog car there. So, he did a great job to actually avoid the incident, but not going to get the lap back.
Tough break for the 67. He gets that incident point, and I think you're right. I think that's why he does not get that free ticket back to the lead lap. And you talk about a sprint. We will come to a restart with 2 laps to go before the stage break. If there is a yellow before the completion, lap number 33, that will serve as the competition yellow. The drivers on the hot seat, Soa, Kamer, that's it. Because O'Connell and Lester both stuck a lap down, basically guaranteed to get the boot in the first set of eliminations. Soa, Kamer have something to say about it as they will start at the very back of the field. Ferdidas, though, once more, opting to go for the outside line on the restart. He gets set to put 31 laps behind. Green flag flies, back and away, 2 to go until stage break 1.
Yeah, once again, that outside line proving to be great. Kyle Trudell this time looking to be the beneficiary, but the caution's already out, and guess who? Steve Soa, Michael Kuczynski, both involved.
So this will serve as the competition caution, as it was a big mess behind. They were 4 wide in the back of the pack. We talk about drivers being a bit desperate. Kyle Kamer was a hot seat driver. Check this out. They're going to go 4 wide into turn 1.
Yeah, and that's a bit clumsy from some of the drivers there. You know, hard to place the blame on any singular driver when you try to go 4-5 wide into a corner. But unfortunately, quite a few drivers now going to be cut. Steve Soa, Kyle Kamer, Blake O'Connell, and Jason Lester all eliminated from this race. And so we're down to 20 cars fighting for the All-Star Challenge here in the Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup.
And admittedly, I'm surprised by some of those names that get the boot because they started for 21st through 24th. They actually started 21st, 11th, 14th, and 18th, respectively. Those are pretty good starting spots.
Yeah, but unfortunately for Kyle Kamer and Blake O'Connell specifically, you know, both drivers involved in multiple incidents. So, you know, they were involved in one incident at the start that sent them to the rear of the field and then unable to make any progress further forward. All that happened to them was, you know, more incidents, unfortunately.
And we talked about the limited fuel cell, where here you see drivers obviously were banking on these competition yellows as an opportunity to come down and to get their fix. So 4 tires in fuel, as actually 2 tires for Andrew Ferdidas. That wins him the battle off of the pit lane. 2 tires for Eberhardt, Washington, McBride, all with 2. It'll be Kyle Trudell on back with 4 tires. But not everybody opted to come down to the pit lane. Jared Mogard, who started this race in 19th spot, will stay out, and he is your new race leader. Again, after Soa, Kamer, O'Connell, and Lester were the first round of eliminations.
Yeah, and that 00, Jared Mogard, maybe he knows something that we don't hear. He came down on lap number 9, so I think that was our second caution of the day. Came down for 4 tires and a full tank of fuel, but maybe, Evan, he's done the math here and he knows exactly how many pit stops till the end. Maybe he's got, you know, a trick under his sleeve. We did see him struggle with the tires in his heat race, but then in that last chance qualifier really turned it up and, you know, dominant win in that, winning by, I think it was almost 4 seconds.
He was real good. He obviously figured something out, and again, maybe hoping that, of course, you can't go the distance with 25% fuel, but earlier this evening, these drivers in both sessions had an hour of practice. It's certainly possible that they could have all done a full fuel run and actually gotten basically an exact number. Maybe he's hoping that this stays green. I don't think he would pit on a wreck for a yellow. I think he is hoping to bridge this thing to that second competition yellow at the end of lap number 66. But the base car going to be in this time. Here we go. It is stage number 2. Green flag flies. We're off and away from Wilkesboro. And for the first time, it's Jared Bogard pace of the field. 20 cars are left.
Yeah, and for the first time on one of these restarts, the leader choosing to go down onto that bottom. It worked out well for Jared. He got a great launch, and that meant that Andrew Farrington was not able to, you know, leapfrog some of the drivers like some of the other times we've seen. But right now, they are 2 wide further back. There's the 5. That's Rhett McBride on the inside of David Washington. You can see a little further back as well, 2 wide all the way. So now that we've had those first round of eliminations, all these drivers knowing that they have to get their way up into the top 10.
Yeah, I'm curious if that will kind of do the opposite of cleaning things up, but if drivers are going to be more desperate. Is the battle for the race lead ongoing here, because Everhart on the bumper to Bogard, but trying to get to the inside is Farinaj. Do they go 3 wide with the 90 with a run off of the corner? No, Bogard slides up, shuts the door. They are working, but also try to be very patient with this 00 not to send him. His car second and third faster, and that was a bad exit for Farinaj. He'll drop to third. Here comes Everhart now on the outside in turn 4.
And there's so much action happening in this pack right now, and it's so clean right now. All it took was getting 4 drivers eliminated, and seemingly they've all cleaned up their acts. There's a little bit of door bagging there, though. Jared Mogard, Daniel Eberhardt getting together, and Andrew Farinaj, he's going to send it down on the inside there.
Yeah, I think that was the inevitable. I don't know if the contact just hurried it up, but I think Farinaj was going to be able to get around the 00. Kind of no matter what happens, so he's on through for the number 2 position, and Mogard falls to third. Mogard and Washington, though, good pickups, third, fourth, after both of them started outside of the top 10 in this race. Next car on the challenge, the number 44 Chevy of Michael Laraya, trying to get to the inside of the Serve Pro Ford in a battle for fourth, and now he's there.
Yeah, and they're 2 wide, 2 deep right now. Further back, that's Rhett McBride and Kyle Trudell going side by side. And so we are seeing here everybody trying to get up into that top 10 further back. And there's a spin. That's the 17 car, Nicholas Caldwell. The caution's not out yet, but there's quite a few cars slow.
No yellow, we stay green. He got knocked sideways, turned into the outside wall, but he actually never spun all the way around. So we stay green, no yellow. Back in the battle now is Steve Durham, which will be for about 13th position on the racetrack, or 14th it'll be. Caldwell disappointed he didn't get the yellow, but I think the rest of the field happy that this one can stay green, because again, they are racing more than the lap counter, more than each other, racing the sunset here from North Wilkesboro. And again, the track temp now continuing to drop 78 degrees Fahrenheit, the lowest we've seen it. Let's see if that evolving track plays into the battle for the lead. Farinaj looking to the bottom of Everhart, drove it in hard in 3, does not stick that time.
Yeah, and as the sun drops, it's also going to make visibility that much easier. Now, you may think it's a game, we don't have to deal with the sun glare, but you know, especially for drivers in VR, that is a big factor to deal with. And that's going to make it that bit easier. But right now, Andrew Farinaj, he's really looking feisty on that inside. But Daniel Eberhardt really able to get some good exits out of the corner right now, running slightly higher. And that's holding off the challenge from the 88 Ford pretty well right now.
And he's almost kind of daring him to drive it in a little bit harder, as you see the battle for third. Bogard forced up on the outside, and what a run it's been for Michael Laraya. He's up into third, trying to get back up to where he started this race, and now has gotten to a race high P3. Side by side is David Washington on the outside, Rhett Nichols on the bottom. This duo for fifth, and on the board with your pole sitter, Adam Benefield's got the best seat in the house.
Yeah, and it looks as though David Washington's struggling a bit on the outside through the midway part of the corner, but once again, on these short straightaways, able to pull away just a little bit. And just something to note, Evan, Jared Mogard, he started obviously on the lead, but having pitted quite a few laps earlier, he has slid all the way into fourth, but not really that slow at this point. You know, the strategy call definitely playing out pretty well for him. And they've got a gaggle of cars right behind him, and they're fighting so hard, they're not really challenging him just yet.
Yeah, and maybe that's going to work out here as a bit of a squeeze that time. Nichols forcing Washington up the hill again. The 98 on timing and scoring, the 89 on the racetrack. That number again, though, actually occupied by John Fowler. But I guess if it's the same number, you can kind of fudge it a little bit. Nobody will know the difference. But yes, you're not kind of seeing things backwards. He does have the 89 stamped on that machine. Now the 55 of Nichols tries to get up on Bogard. Got a feeling that 00 is going to have his hands full for quite some time here now, as it looks like finally inside line, Benefield clearing David Washington.
Yeah, but Mogard only has to hold off about 12 more laps. We're working lap 54 now. Lap 66 going to be the second and final competition caution. And that's where drivers from 11th through 20th going to be eliminated. And that's the bubble that Rhett Bride and John Fowler are battling for right now.
Yeah, the 10th spot is the last spot in, and Austin Wagner in the 14th machine has got it. So these guys trying to get up to him, but I think they're hurting each other. The more they fight side by side for 11th and 12th, the further up the road the 14th machine of Wagner is going to get. You can see the big gap, that side by side, that glimpse of it at a turn 2. That was 11th on the back. They need to be position 10. A lot of fast race cars going to get the boot in about now 9 laps from now, but I mean, you mentioned it, the difference of 4 cars, a big difference. This one go green, that restart.
Yeah, and we can see all behind Jared Mogard, they're fighting hard, but Jared's having it pretty easy still at this point. Hitting, almost 30 laps before the rest of his competitors, but the number of cautions that we've had clearly aiding his tire life pretty well. But I think right now all of these drivers, they don't want to fight too hard. They don't want to, take each other out. They don't want to take themselves out, especially when they know that 8 laps, they'll be locked in and have the chance to fight for the win. You've got 33 laps. You've got to think of this almost as like a stage race, and these stage wins are really meaningless. So, for someone like Austin Wagner at the back of the pack, you can see him being very smart. He's not trying to fight too hard, while Adam Benefield, he's looking to try and get the place from Jared Mogard.
Yeah, Wagner's closed it in on some of these battles. The likes of the one machine of Tice, funded with Trudell. The battle you're watching is the 83 of Benefield on the inside of Mogard. A couple of team cars as well in the mix here. 60 laps down, 40 laps to go this time by from Wilkesboro. And Benefield will clear. Nichols next on deck. Not going to go for the dive. He'll tuck in line for the time being as he runs right now in position 6. And, well, there's a bit of a shot at it, too, as Mogard really messed up the corner. Nichols got into him pretty decently there.
Yeah, and Jared's on the go. Oh, no. Oh, he's having to pit, and that must be just his fuel situation. So misplaying the fuel number, and unfortunately, Evan, that's going to kill his chance of getting through this next cut.
Yeah, that's going to drop him certainly outside of the top 10. He was about 5 laps short of stretching it, and honestly, I don't hate the call. If we had gotten a caution flag or 2, I think he probably would have been able to save enough fuel to bridge that difference.
Yeah, 100%. 3 laps to go right now until that second competition caution. He was desperately unlucky, and I was just about to comment right before that incident that he was up 14 spots from where he qualified. So he qualified all the way back in 19th. That was clearly not going to be a good spot to try and work his way forward, and unfortunately not able to really execute that pit strategy 100% perfectly.
So now the bubble goes to John Fowler. He had been on the outside looking in, but with the 00 forced to the pit lane, he jumps up to 10th, and he would be in if he can stay clean for a lap and a half. Battle for the race lead, though. Who is going to get that control car position for what could be the final restart? It's Farinaj with 1 lap to go to the Comp Yellow, trying to get on the Donnie machine of Daniel Eberhardt. Lap traffic as well up the road. In 16th place to Valderrama. The 88 car looking, but he's not going to put the bumper to him. And coming to the Comp Yellow, the race leader in this one will stay Daniel Eberhardt.
Yeah, and we were so focused on that battle further back in the field that we kind of, didn't notice that Daniel Eberhardt, Andrew Farinaj, and Michael Leroy were all having a pretty good scrap for that first position. And at the end of the day, though, it doesn't matter. This, even though Daniel was leading on this competition yellow, the only thing that anyone is going to really remember is who was leading come the checkered flag.
So there they go, the drivers sent home in this one. Chambliss, McBride, Caldwell, Durham, Kalis, Valderrama, Scott, Mogard, Kaczynski, and Stanford eliminated from the race here tonight from North Wilkesboro Speedway. And then there were only 10 cars left on track. They're short on fuel with the limited fuel cells, and this could be the final cycle of pit stops.
Yeah, well, what we saw last time around is that if you come in on this pit stop, you're going to be good on fuel till the end of this race. And I'm now expecting all of these drivers at the rear of the field to maybe take 4, but I'm very curious, if you're Andrew Farinaj or Daniel Eberhardt, do you take 2 to try and guarantee that track position?
Yeah, he's got options, and let's see in the race off for the pit lane. First car off will be the 90 machine. No, it is Farinaj, and just as you questioned, he decides to stick, though, with the 4 tires. The driver going for 2, and track position is Benefield, so he did go for the play. Only 8.3 seconds in the stall guarantees that he now goes to the race lead. Your pole sitter with a gamble.
Yeah, and your pole sitter did fall back a little bit, through the course of that run, but I think most of that, Evan, was just down to the fact that he was in a fairly disadvantaged position on the restarts. Every time it looked like he just got caught out on that outside line. He was on the inside line, and the outside line would catch him out. But, he's got the track position now. We saw that last stage go completely green. I don't expect the same from this final stage, but he's in a good position. And, Andrew Farinage, Daniel Eberhardt, and Michael Laride, they've all been strong this race. But David Washington, Rhett Nichols, Joseph Theis, Austin Wagner, Kyle Trudell, and John Fowler, a lot of big names in this series. They're going to be hoping that, maybe some of these drivers out front get a little bit of damage. And there is the fast repair to consider. 33 laps. Hopefully we can get less cautions than we did in the first 33 laps.
It'll be a restart 20 minutes away from sunset, and with 29 laps to go on the scoring pylon. It'll be Adam Benefield, control car, opting to go to the outside, with maybe the fastest car all night of Friedage on his inside. Green flag flies. We're backing away. It is the final stage in this race for the North Wilkesboro All-Star Challenge. Fight for third. Lariah on the outside of Eberhardt.
Yeah, and I think Michael Larai's got some advantage here. Daniel Eberhardt getting a little bit checked up by the 2 cars in front of him, but they're still scrapping side by side, and also David Washington and Rhett Nichols behind them. So fighting for track position early. We've only got 10 cars here, and you can see them all in the same shot.
It's a real scenic look as well as the sky turns orange as the sun sets. Oh, a big slide by Eberhardt that time, and now a battle for the race lead. It is Farinage on the inside of Adam Benefield. He has given it everything he's got to hold them off on the top side. These 10 cars staying glued together in one big pack. And Farinage on the bottom. I think Canada's in front at the start-finish line. No, Benefield by 3/1,000ths, and now maybe a bit of contact that time.
Yeah, coming out of fourth last time around, Adam struggling a little bit with the rear of his car. He's trying to pinch Andrew as much as he can, but you can see those 4 tires as David Washington in the background getting spun around. That is going to bring out the caution, and John Fowler, the other car involved.
First yellow we've seen in about 45 laps of on-track action. That was for an incident, and it looked like I thought maybe there was definitely some contact. It looks like David Washington, but it got a bit of loose on his zone at first. Let's watch up the road. Look for him there with the pink car and Wagner. And when he gets sideways, there it is. I mean, there's nowhere for Wagner to go. And then poor 89 Machida Fowler, who had absolutely no way to avoid that, kind of plows into it as the 3rd car.
Yeah, and Austin Wagner might have been the luckiest car there to get away with minimal damage. John Fowler does have some on that front hood. David Washington seems to be fairly okay, but we are going to see these drivers come down onto the lane, and I think for some of them, this is when they're going to try and use their fast repair. But, Evan, if I'm, thinking ahead, I have to assume that we're going to get at least one more caution. Maybe it's worth saving your fast repair. As John Fowler leaving the box, he's definitely taken his fast repair there.
He's going to get it fixed up. Looks like Wagner may not have it because I'm not seeing the back end of that race car getting instantly repaired. So he may be sitting down there, allowing for that car to get fixed up. Yeah, no quick repair. Of course, very short caution laps here at North Wilkesboro. Only about 40 laps, or 40 seconds, sorry, every single time around under the yellow flag. So you really don't have an opportunity to get extensive stuff repaired unless you're willing to lose a lap.
Yeah, and at this stage in the race, you can't afford to lose a lap. If we go green from here to the end, you're going to be in a bad position. Austin Wagner trying to come back down the lane to get more damage repaired. I think the lights are still on the pace car, though, so he might have, a bit of time to still get some of that damage repaired, but clearly not going to be, fighting at 100%.
And we'll see just how many laps going to be left to go. This time by, it'll be 21. And I think we have 2 really interesting battles on our hand. I think Farinage a little bit better than Benefield. Of course, at the timing of the yellow as well, very important in this one because that battle had not ended. However, at the time the yellow flag came out, Freenage's nose was in front, so he is given the race lead. He'll go to the outside. If he clears Benefield, this could be big, because I think if the 88 gets clean air, it's going to be awfully difficult to catch him.
Yeah, and just going back to what we saw at the start of the race, Adam Benefield, every time he was on the inside with Andrew Farinage leading us to the green flag on the outside, Adam Benefield would get jumped every time. So if I'm Michael Araya, I'm going to be watching and trying to make sure that I follow that 88 car as well as I can, because that might be the best way to move myself up into second.
His car off and in. It'll be a restart with 20 laps to go for North Wilkesboro. Green flag, we're off, and what a picture-perfect start for Freenage. He'll pull the lead by about 2-3 car lengths into center at turns 1 and 2. Battle's going to be for second, and that is Michael Araya squeezing his way on the outside. Just about took himself out on the outside wall there on the backstretch. Can't win the battle for second. That goes to Benefield, and Everhart going to keep him at a deadlock for third.
Yeah, and Adam Benefield doing a good job there to make sure he got a better launch than he has previously. Michael Araya not able to really try and get too close, because Daniel Eberhardt actually squeezed him quite a bit coming through turn 2, ran quite high through the corner. And what this means is Andrew Farinage, he's now got a half a second lead out front. And what we see is Adam Benefield, the driver with 2 tires, he's fairly comfortable right now and holding off those battling cars behind.
Yeah, he is. He's pulled about 5-6 car lengths. I think that uncontested. Oh, there's contact with Everhart. He got into it with the 44. He's up the hill. Tyson involved. The Washington collected, and it is a melee in turn number 1 that collects some of the fastest cars.
Yeah, and that's what was happening, just racing really hard. I think these drivers getting a little bit too confident about how they've been racing in that previous stage. For Daniel Eberhardt, he just got a little bit loose, ran a little bit too high up the track, and ran out of room and ran into Michael Araya.
So the yellow flag is out again. We slow things down, and that's one less opportunity, or I guess 4 laps less of opportunity for some drivers to figure things out. But honestly, I think that yellow hurts Freenage more than anybody else. I think the key here is some of the best battles for the race lead that we have seen have happened when they stay side by side. I think if the 88's clear, he's gone. This is going to come down to Benefield getting a good jump one of these times. Keep in mind as well, now that we're inside of the final 15 laps, that there are still up to 3 attempts at a green-white checkered finish should we need them. That is one of the lone rules that does not change from a normal Monday night race.
And you're 100% right. I think this race is going to be decided about how these restarts go. And if I'm Adam Benefield, I know that I have to get at least the same type of restart that I did last time around. That's the best way that you're going to try and hold on to that second position. Now, we have seen a few cars coming down the lane to get some damage repaired. Joseph Theis had none of his front end on that car. He had to come down and try to get some of that manually repaired. We still have Kyle Trudell and David Washington on the lane, but I think this is going to be almost a 3 or 4 car fight. We have seen Andrew Farinage, I think, be the strongest car, especially on the longer runs in this race so far. But, Michael Araya, he's also there. Bright Nichols. Austin Wagner has definitely been keeping his car very clean, but it could just come down to who's in the best position and keeps their car the cleanest for the green-white checker if we get to that stage.
I think as well the night may be done for David Washington. Of course, got a big bit of damage involved in that. He just now got lapped a second time, and I feel like if he was hoping to get back out and onto the racetrack to avoid getting lapped, he would have done so by now. So I'm thinking his night will be done. Of course, not the only trip that these drivers will have to North Wilkesboro Speedway. They'll be back here on June the 22nd. It'll be an untelevised special event, but it'll be the North Wilkesboro 400. That'll be when the 1987 Chevy Monte Carlo and the Ford Thunderbird on the iRacing service, and that'll be a special event for all the RSR drivers on what is a Cup Series off week to do a full 400 lap single file restart all 1987 rules race in the old stock cars here at the old Speedway. So they will not be done here. Of course, our action on RaceSpot will resume 2 weeks' time, June the 1st, for round 11 in Charlotte Motor Speedway for the next points paid race as we start the second half of the regular season. But it is the man who has been on top and won 3 of the last 6, Andrew Freitas, looking to add an all-star challenge race to his belt. The pace truck diving down and in, 11 laps to go for North Wilkesboro. Could Benefield guess the race start? No, he can't. Freitas will take the lead to turn 1.
Yeah, and straight away, that 55 of Rhett Nichols, he's he's challenging the 83 of Adam Benefield. He got a little bit into the wall, but he's going to clear Adam into the corner now. And now Michael Lariah is lining up Adam to get his way into third as well.
He had to squeeze his way through there. I saw the sparks flying off of the outside wall. And, I mean, Freitas, Nichols, Benefield, Lariah, 1, 2, 3, 4. They've been here all night as we see the 44 to the bottom. But how about a shout-out to the car behind? John Fowler, 5th in the LCQ, started in 23rd spot. You're on board with him as he has worked his way to 5th.
Yeah, and he's been involved in an incident or two in this feature race, able to keep it out there, though. And right now, though, in front of him, he's watching this fierce battle between Michael Lariah, and there's a little bit of contact.
Caution. Thought that maybe we weren't going to see it. Got into the back of the 44 in front of him. I think Lariah actually made contact with Benefield. Benefield got onto the curbs. Watch the contact right there. I mean, they're all out of control. They check up. Fowler can't really respond. He gets into the back of the 44, gets hard on the brakes, and just kind of went around off of the 90 machine of Daniel Eberhard. Just a big accordion effect down at that end of the racetrack. And Freitas has to slow and let the rest of the field catch up again for a yellow inside at 10 laps to go.
Yeah, and I think the big cause of that one was Adam Benefield throwing a big aggressive block down on the inside of Michael Lariah. And Michael was still trying to send it pretty aggressively, and that's what caused the accordion effect, like you pointed out. But if I'm Andrew Freitas, I can't be too happy about this right now. Again, I was just starting to build up that gap. You know, Rhett Nichols was holding on to the back, but once again, that 88 car just showing his pace around this track. And once again, he's going to have to go from a restart once again.
He will, and it'll mix up the kind of playing field because we're going to expect Freitas to want to stay on the outside line. I would be shocked if he deviates from that. But what's going to change now is Benefield's no longer going to be the car on the bottom. That'll be Rhett Nichols. So Nichols maybe going to bring something new to the table. And maybe he can guesstimate the start for the 88, but also Benefield going to be in line behind him should be able to read the restart better. Who knows? Maybe Nichols can't make the bottom work, but Benefield stays closer in relation to the 88 by starting behind him. And I mean, it is a short track. You can never take the bumper out of the equation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where we're going to really see if that two-tire strategy from Adam Benefield really pays off. I think now is going to be the time where he either makes it work, able to really wheel that car all the way back to the front, or we're going to see some of the drivers, maybe Michael Lariah, Joseph Theis, Austin Wagner, maybe they're going to get, you know, an opportunity to really make their way past the pole position winner.
But the lights on top of the pace truck stay on this time through. Thought they would be going out that time. So if they go out next time, it would be, kind of a de facto, if you would, green and white checker to finish. Again, 3 attempts at overtime if necessary. This one just may be a normal 2-lap to go restart. That is if the lights go off this time through. Of course, if a yellow comes before the start-finish line, you re-rack them, stack them, and try again. And I think that is then where I would become concerned about the sunlight. A lot of drivers were worried about the lack of lights. We've got plenty of daylight. The sun set behind the grandstands about 10-15 minutes ago. It is about 8 o'clock p.m. in sim time. And the lights are out on top of the pace car. So they're going to get maybe one last crack at this. Is Andrew Freitas untouchable?
I think it's going to be interesting here as well to see Rhett McBride versus Michael Lariah. I think if Rhett McBride is unable to really time the restart, we're going to see Michael get to his outside, and that might let Andrew Farinage and that 88 car have the opportunity to run away to the checkered flag for this race.
It'll be 2 laps to go in the North Wilkesboro Boosted.Club All-Star Challenge for Andrew Farinage. Green flag flies. We're back at it, and he's off to a 3-car length advantage, but Nichols gets tagged. Benefield with a shot. It's going to be a battle for second on the back as they look for the white flag.
Yeah, and Adam Benefield was giving Rhett McBride a push all the way from the initial restart. And what that's meant is Andrew Farinage out front, but Michael Lariah on the outside there. He's got second place, and I think right now he's in the best possible position to hold on to it. Rhett McBride on the inside fighting hard, but that outside line has been where Michael has been very strong.
And out in front, the checkered flag flies as Farinage wins the All-Star. There's a spin behind. That was John Fowler wrecking across the finish line and dropping to P8. And Michael Lariah hangs on to the battle for second. But there is no pat on the back. There is no good points day. The only thing that matters is the checkered flag. And at North Wilkesboro, of all places, Andrew Farinage adds to his repertoire of race-winning tracks in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, a winner of the Boosted.Club All-Star Challenge. What a fantastic feature.
Yeah, what a great race there. We had some cautions at the beginning and end, but, completely green for the second stage of the race. And Andrew Farinage adds to his 3 regular season wins with this All-Star Challenge. And, that's really going to give him a lot of confidence. He's just been performing at such a high level throughout the season so far and continues to get it done.
And he's going to try to find victory lane, but there's a fence. They're not going to let him in as he does a bit of exploring in the infield. There's a look at your full race results tonight from Wilkesboro. Again, only those top 10 cars allowed the race to the end as we see Andrew Farinage get about as close to victory lane as possible here at this racetrack. And then the drivers 11th on 20th were a part of elimination round number 2. They were disqualified at lap number 66, courtesy of the format. And then it was the cars 21st on the back who didn't make it past lap number 33. So look top to bottom at your race results tonight. We will take a quick opportunity to step aside, and when we come back, we'll chat with your top 3 finishers from North Wilkesboro. The All-Star race belongs to Andrew Farinage. No shock, it's the 88 in victory lane on a Monday night. Post-race action on RacespotTV is next.
We are back at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, where the field is rolling out for the start of today's 400-lap race on this .625-mile racetrack. And just as the field comes around turn number 4, the sunshine peeks through, helping warm things here. Bill Elliott leads him down. Benny Parsons on the outside. The green flag flies, and the first Union 400 Winston Cup race from North Wilkesboro is underway. Everybody nicely through turns number 1 and 2 as Bill Elliott has the lead and Dale Earnhardt has jumped into second position, followed by Benny Parsons and Bobby Allison. So here we go. It's just about to go away. They bump coming out of turn 4. Earnhardt gets the lead. We had just heard from our spotters that Neil Martin. Dale Earnhardt is on his last lap. This will be his 24th career win. Dale Earnhardt wins the first Union 400 at North Wilkesboro.
And back live from what is now a dark and quiet virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway, RacespotTV's coverage of the RealSimRacing Full Throttle Cup Series, powered by Boosted, continued with tonight's North Wilkesboro Boosted.Club All-Star Challenge. It is Andrew Friedage at Victory Lane, and he awaits us as we welcome you back into the RacespotTV booth with our producer Hugo Luis, myself, Evan Pisoko, and Arjuna Kankipati. Let's talk with the race winner and the driver of the number 88 machine. And no surprise to see Andrew Friedage at RSR Victory Lane, but Andrew, I gotta ask you, did you ever think you'd win a real sim race at North Wilkesboro? Had to have been a fun event tonight.
Yeah, I'm just so happy to be able to race at this track, and I mean, it takes a little bit of practice. I did a ton of it this week. It's just, it's a fun track when you go green, and we were able to do that some tonight. And I mean, just really cool. The billboard or the scoring pylon on 3 and 4 there works, and they did such a good job. Such a treat just to drive on this track and to win. I mean, I can't believe it. That was awesome.
Of course, the whole idea was we wanted to get this race at this track, but we weren't sure if it was going to be available early enough. And tentative was actually a night race at USA International Speedway that would have happened if this race and this track had not been available. So the fact that we got to go racing in a bit of a different night, of course, heat races and all of that, you didn't have to deal with that because you got to go right in based on qualifying and got out-queued by Adam Benefield. You two went back and forth a lot tonight, but it seemed at the end when you got the clean air that you were better.
Yeah, I got to give it to Adam. He ran a heck of a lap. I don't know how the heck he did it. He was flying. So, I mean, after that, we kind of just took 2 tires there to get some track position. Then it was fight with Daniel. I felt like we were a little quicker than him through the night. It was just so hard to pass. It probably was great racing. So I'm just happy to get it done.
Of course, you got some off time now, some special events sprinkled in there, but the next time we'll be in these NASCAR Cup cars. We'll be at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for round 11. So as we get set to embark on the second half of the regular season, a 3-time race winner, unofficially 4-time. I got to say, I think 2020's treated you pretty well as you're going for a title defense.
Yeah, I mean, we could easily had 2 more wins with last week in Bristol, but it's just been really, really good lately. We go back to the 1.5 miles, which are not really my style, so we're just going to try to get through that. Thank God they moved the championship race to Phoenix, so I feel like we have a chance if we can make it that far, but I think I'm looking too far ahead. Just, the rest of the year is kind of, I know it's not meaning anything, but try to get the regular season points championships, win a few more races, and then we'll go into the playoffs. But I'm definitely going to enjoy these few weeks off. Sorry, I'm out of breath here.
It looked like a lot of fun out there tonight, and we'll let you get out of here because I know it started a bit earlier than normal as well. But Andrew, we appreciate you being a part of the action on Mondays. We also appreciate you talking with us. Congratulations, you're an all-star race winner.
Thanks so much, guys.
The race winner tonight for North Wilkesboro, and we talked about the battle between he and Adam Benefield, but actually late in this race, it was Michael Araya with a lot of speed in the 44 car. Now, Junior, you're talking with him now.
Yeah, and Michael, started fairly well in 4th, obviously locked into this race as a result of prior performances, but able to hold up in that front field for most of the time. And then that last restart after starting in 3rd on that outside row, able to jump Rhett Nichols for 2nd. And Michael, obviously, I think for you, one of the things I noticed was just how the restart seemed to go. It was almost imperative that you started on the outside behind Andrew because he was just getting such a good jump that if you were on the inside, you got caught out.
He really was doing a great job on those restarts. I also noticed too, if you were stuck on the inside line, the person on the outside could really pinch you down there, and it'd be so hard to get a good drive off of the corner. So for whatever reason with this track, this is one of the best as far as the outside line actually working. The main area you got to be careful with is just the entry to turn 3 on the outside because the car could get a little bit tight if you weren't careful. But man, you could really hold your own up there.
Yeah, and obviously, this is a little bit, more laid back and fun, Michael, but you're currently leading, I believe, the point standings for the regular season. So, we're at the halfway stage of the season right now. How do you feel the season's gone so far, and how are you looking forward to, the second half of the regular season and getting a few weeks off here?
I got to say the start to my season has been really good. Up to maybe the last couple weeks where I stumbled a little bit. I got caught in some wrecks that weren't of my doing, just having some bad racing luck. But then I rebounded last week at Martinsville. even though it wasn't the cleanest race for me. But I got to say, coming into a new league and being where I am in the standings, I'm really happy about that. I'm looking forward to going back racing though after these off weeks, get into some of these mile-and-a-half tracks where I feel they're probably my strong suit. So if I can go to those tracks and perform well, I feel really good about my chances moving forward.
And, obviously you're part of the Flat Out Motorsports team, and not only are you leading the individual driver standings, but leading the team standings as well. At this time, Joseph Thies, your teammate, I believe, he finished in 5th. So obviously it's going fairly well for you guys as a team. How do you guys feel about this series in general? And, how much do you guys enjoy competing every Monday?
Oh, well, there's certainly some great competition in here. I got to say, Andrew is probably one of the best drivers that I've raced against in a long time. If you're racing against him and Daniel Eberhardt, you got to be on top of things. You can't let him get a chance within a race to pull away from you. You got to be on top of your game and make sure that you execute. I know as far as our team goes, we try to make sure that we practice for the races every week if we can. And it certainly helps us just find things, whether it be working on long runs and just looking at tire wear and just practicing pit stops under green flag conditions. So, if you want to win in this series, you're definitely going to have to put in some work.
Yeah, well, congrats on a good second place here tonight, Michael. Obviously, that hard work starting to pay off for you guys. And yeah, good luck for the next 10 races in the regular season.
All right. Thank you, guys.
And that's a chat with your second place finisher, Michael Araya. We'll wrap up things here now post-race, talking with the driver of the 55 machine, because it's a P3 for Rhett Nichols. And Rhett, before we get to that feature, let's talk earlier tonight, because you had a bit of a longer evening than both Andrew and Michael ahead of you did. You had to go through the heat races, and a race winner of heat race number 1. Obviously, you knew you had some speed from pretty early on.
Yeah, definitely. With getting the pole in the heat races, it was amazing. Being able to just stay out front and stay clean because there's no caution. So, and it also helped me get a little bit of a feel for the track. I know it was a different state between the tracks, but still getting any type of track time on the sim is great.
What you think about North Wilkesboro? Obviously, a totally different track than anything we have on the active calendar, and iRacing did such a good job of getting it to us early on the service, so we could use it for this special event. Short track, you're going downhill into 1, uphill into 3. Certainly looked pretty racy out there for the cars up front.
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite tracks to watch growing up. I'd always watch the old VODs growing up, and so I've always been a short track guy. I haven't had the best of luck here at the short tracks, but I've definitely had speed in the RSR Cup Series. So being able to come out here, finally finish a race clean, and get a good finish, even though it's an all-star race, definitely helps my confidence.
Of course, we're going to be kind of resetting here with a week off from Cup Series action. Some other special events taking place, but this championship will roll on 2 weeks' time from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Of course, the ultimate goal is to be a car fighting for a playoff position when it's all said and done. But, I mean, if tonight is any indication, the 55 has certainly got some speed. What do you think that the second half of the season is going to bring for you, given that have some work to do given the championship situation?
I think it'll be good. I don't know where I stand in the championships or anything like that. I just kind of take it a race by race, practice each week, find where my strengths and weaknesses are, and try to slide my way into a win and get into the playoffs that way.
Well, we look forward to catching you at CMS in 2 weeks' time. Rhett, thanks for racing with us at a Monday night, and congrats on a good result here tonight.
Thank you all very much.
Your third place finisher tonight in the feature race. And one more big thanks to our top 3 for Rhett Nichols, Michael Araya, and Andrew Fridas. Third, second, and first tonight from Wilkesboro. And that ends what is a fun night of competition. Heat races, LCQs, eliminations, and a sun setting all led us for a great return to Wilkesboro and a debut, first time ever in RSR competition. A lot of times you can say that these days on the iRacing service in a NASCAR Cup Series League, but Of course, they do have that off week, and we did allude to some of the special events. They will be running in that iRock series on the off weeks. No TV for that, but maybe we'll see if we can bring you some special coverage, maybe highlights or something to keep everybody posted with on what happens there on the off weeks. That'll be next week from Daytona in the super late models. But at least to end off this all-star race, you mentioned it in the interview, Eugenia, that this is supposed to be, and is for most guys, kind of a fun de-stressor, old racetrack, have fun with it. But honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if we left here with more rivalries than we came into it with.
Yeah, very similar situation to some of the pro races that we've seen over the last few weeks. The NASCAR Pro Invitational, the IndyCar iRacing Challenge. Some of the things that I'm very curious to see playing out in the future is how some of the rivalries that developed on the virtual world are going to develop into the real world. I know that someone like Santino Ferrucci did not make so many fans with his last lap move at Indy. And I think, it's going to be the same here. We did see a lot of aggressive driving, especially further back in the field with some of the cars trying to make their way through the elimination cycles. But for the most part, it was still fairly clean, Evan. We saw Andrew Farinage, Michael Laraya, and Daniel Eberhardt, having a great battle out front. And, I am expecting that when these guys go racing again in Charlotte in 2 weeks' time, that they're all going to be itching to get back to, Cup Series action.
And of course, it's funny. You talk with the race winner, Andrew Friedage. He says, I'm not the biggest fan of the intermediate tracks. You talk with your runner-up, Michael Araya. He says, hey, that's my strong suit. So we could see a bit of drama in the points as we head to the second half of the regular season. But until then, that is it for us here tonight from North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. On behalf of the entire team at RSR, RacespotTV, and for your broadcast crew tonight. For your good ways, our Junior Kakipati and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and to congratulate Andrew Friedage, All-Star Challenge winner, as we get set to return from NASCAR's backyard for the longest oval race of the season. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time on June the 1st for the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2020 RealSimRacing Full Throttle Cup Series, powered by Boosted, going to be found exclusively right here on RaceSpot TV. Until next time, good night.